What's going on, guys? Hope you all are doing great. Today, as you can see, we're creating a budget tracker. And what do we mean by budget tracker? We mean we'll be able to track your expenses, we'll be able to track your savings, and also your investments. How do we do that? Right here, we have a drop down that shows us actually savings, expense, and investment. So right here, I'm just going to choose savings and I'll put house or whatever it is. And I put 1000. We click that. You can see we have 1000. What I can do now is add expenses, and I'll put food and I'll put 200. And now it's showing us here, and this is the cool thing. You can see that the savings is green, expenses is red, and investment is yellow. We can add investment. So okay, the investment is for a car or just a description, whatever it is. Your description can be different depending on who you are. I'm just giving a simple example here. And now you see it got minus by 500, so now we have 300 left. So this is what I mean by a budget tracker, because with this you'll be able to track your expenses, track your investments, and also track your savings. So that's what we're doing here. We'll first start it off with the HTML and then the CSS and finish it up with JavaScript, so you can have this complete project right here. Yeah, and I also leave some resources if you want to check it out. But for this right here, this is going to be really simple, nothing too complicated. Like the video, guys, before we get started. Comment down below if you have any questions, and also subscribe if you're new so you can get the other parts of this video. And with all that being said, let's get started, guys. Yeah, guys, so you can see right here that I divided my screen so we can see what we're doing in our HTML file. And we have some scripts already here. We have a CDN.js, we have a jQuery, we have Max CD, we also have Bootstrap. So all this is just to make the implementation easier, and so we don't have to do too much on the CSS part. So for sure, down in the description below, you will see a starter file. You just click on that, it will take you to my GitHub where you get the starter file. And with the starter file, you have all this already there for you. All you need to do is just start coding along with me. So let's get started, guys. This is our index.html file. And inside here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a div, and we'll give it a class name of row. So inside this row right here, we'll create another div and we'll call it call. And in this call, since we're using Bootstrap, we're giving it call 4, and we're also giving a left dash container. And yeah, if you're not used to Bootstrap, this might seem a little bit different, but this is just for us to be able to align different things in different directions, so we don't have to do all that in CSS. That's the cool thing with using Bootstrap. The next class name we'll have is we'll have month dash container, and inside month dash container we'll have another div called header. And I'll just add some other class names to this. fs-white. Here we'll put inside it, inside this div, we'll have your budget. We can see your budget is showing. And make sure you close that div because that's where we put actually your budget. After that, we'll have another current dash month. Oh, and this is actually an ID current dash month, so I'll just change this class to ID. And we'll also add a class to it, and the class will be sub-text and also fs-white. So this expense tracker we're actually doing, I use it daily. This is something you should have, because we all know you don't get rich by actually spending how much you make. Get rich by actually being able to live below your means and actually save some money. So that's really important, and this is why you should have an expense tracker that checks your investment, checks your budget, checks your income, and also checks your spendings. We'll create another class, we'll call it class, or we'll call it budget dash container. We'll add ps or p-2 and then empty-4. And most of this Bootstrap, if you don't understand them, just put it on Google and yeah, you will see what it says. Now it's time to add a span tag. We'll give it an ID. The ID will be month-budget. Also give it a class, and the class will be month-amount. And right here, I'm using HTML code to just put the $sign. You could also put $, but I prefer using this just because of some browsers, depending on the browser you're using. And then we put a hash or £, 36, and then a comma here. So that's how you put the $, and we're starting at $0. Hopefully stack that up to be more. Okay, need to clean this off. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So now we save it and we can see we have the $sign with $0 in front of it. Okay, so we can see that we have a closing div, and this is the extension. I'll put it down in the comments below if you want to have this extension. Just especially when you're doing larger projects like this, sometimes you want to be able to see the div that is being closed. So in this case, it's showing me budget container is the closing of this, and we see budget container. Where's budget container? Right here. You can see budget container right here. So now I know this is the div budget container, and this is the one that closes it. And we can see it shows us month container. Month container is here. So I see the opening div and I see the closing div. So that's why this extension is really useful, because sometimes it gets complicated or it gets confusing or you just make some basic mistakes. But with this, you are not going to do that. What we'll do now is that after month container, the closing div of month container, we will add some other elements. And the first one we'll add is we'll add a div called charts dash container. And let's just give this monthly div a little bit of space. I think my screen is a little bit too dark. I'm going to increase the brightness. Now inside this chart container, we'll have a canvas. And this canvas will give it an ID of expense chart. After our chart container div and also our left container, we'll add something different now. So these are together. Just create a little bit of space. We'll add a div, we'll call it col-8. And I'll also give it a right container. And you'll see the use of this right and left containers later, but for now, just follow along. Next, we have a div called calc-container. Inside here, we have a header, and we'll add some more Bootstrap code to it. Bootstrap class codes. So we'll say dark-gray. Inside here, we'll say track your budget. We can see that showing now. And it's to the right. You know, this was left container. You see, this is right container. So that's part of the magic of Bootstrap. Now we'll say dash or dot dropdown. We're creating a dropdown class. And inside here, I'll just put open. What we'll put inside here is we'll put a button, and this button will have a class of btn, and then btn dash info, and we'll also add a drop down dash toggle. What we'll also add to this button was we'll give it a type, and the type will be button. We'll add an ID also. The ID will be drop. It'll be drop down menu 3. And we'll also add a data dash toggle. And we'll set that to drop down. What we can also do is we can add an area pop-up. So say area dash has pop-up. Set that to true because we want it to have one. And area expanded dash expanded. Set that to false. Okay, change it. It should be false. Okay, now inside our button, and make sure everything is there. Rewind the video if you didn't get everything, but make sure it's all there. We have the area pop-up, area expanded, data toggle, ID, type, and also the class. Inside the button, we'll put expense type. Save it, and we can see it here. This is all we did, and we didn't add any CSS. So this is why we're using Bootstrap. Just makes everything a little bit easier. Okay, what's next? Now we're going to add another div, and we'll give it a class name of dropdown menu or dropdown dash menu. Inside this dropdown dash menu, we'll add an anchor tag. This anchor tag, we don't need to have a href link. All we'll do is we'll give it a class, and the class will be dropdown dash item. And we'll also give it an ID, and the ID will be type dash savings. Inside this anchor tag, I'll put savings. Save it, and you can't see it, but if you click here, you can see we see savings. So that's the whole point of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this because we're going to have savings. So when you want to save, you can save it. I also have expense, and after expense we also have investment. So this is a proper expense tracker, not just how much you're spending, but you'll be able to track everything that involves your money. Inside here, the type, we'll change it from type savings to type expense. Change this to expense. And here will be, instead of, it will be type investment instead of type savings. Inside here, we're going to put investment. Put a capital I, investment. So we save it now and we open it, and you can see we have the 3 different options. And feel free to add some other things. I don't know, you could add crypto, what you also spend money on. So that's a good idea to add maybe a crypto and maybe something else, depending on what you do. That's the whole point of this project, is that you should be able to make it your own and add some other things that you feel it needs. So now after the dropdown.open, what we'll do is we'll add another div, and we'll give it a class name of empty-3. Inside here, we're still also going to put tracking-text, and also text dash capitalize. Also add a sub dash text and a button or bottom dash border. Inside here we'll put tracking savings, and we'll add this emoji right here. So I'll leave a link also to where you can get all these emojis and put them in yours, but this is just more for fun. You don't need to have this. Okay, so what we'll do next is we'll create another row. So we'll create a class name called row. Inside this row we'll say empty-4. Now in here we'll create another call -7. Inside here we'll create an input tag. The input is going to be text. What we'll add to it is we'll give it a class. It's going to be form-control. And if you're used to Bootstrap, you should be used to form control. I'll also put input-expense description. What we'll also do is, since we're dealing with input, we'll add a placeholder. So we'll say description. Now what we'll do next is we'll create another div. And you know what, I'm just gonna copy this right here. For sure we're going to change it. The class name is going to be called for. It's form control too, but inside it, it's not this. So we'll change this to input. Instead of description, is going to be value. And the type is a number and not text. On the placeholder, we'll put value. And all this will make sense. Just keep following along and you see how all this, that's programming for you. It's step by step. You put the first brick, the second brick, and before you know, you got a house. So that's what we're basically doing here. And we'll add another one. It's call 1. And inside here, it's going to be a button instead of inputs. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna remove this because, as we know, input it doesn't have a closing tag. So yeah, I'll just create a button right here. Inside the button, we'll give it a type, and the type is button. It has a class. The class is btn-success. So it's a success button, and a btn-submit expense. And here we'll put an and we'll put check. So we save this and we can see this right here. This is the success button. It's green. If it wasn't, green is for success. Green for go. Yeah. So that's the success button, and we have a check mark. That's what we did right here. With this check right here. You can see our description. We have our value. Okay, so what we'll do next is below row empty-4. What we want to do is, that's 2 divs. You can see row empty-4. So below this is the closing tag. What we want to put here is we'll create a div called expense-list. Inside here we'll add also an empty-4. And that's basically it. So make sure that your closing tag looks like this. For your closing tag, to make sure you don't have any error, you should have expense list empty4. You should also have a calc container. You should have col_a to write container, and you have row. So basically you should have 4 closing divs after the opening div of expense-list empty4. Now guys, we're done with the HTML. This is all for the HTML. The next part is the CSS. The video will be coming very soon, probably the next day, because I wanted to put this short by short and not make it a full video, but give us step by step. So make sure you have all this code already written down and that you have no errors. Yours should look exactly like what ours looks right here. We'll add the CSS and finally we'll finish it up with the JavaScript. If you're new to the channel, subscribe so you can get the other parts that are coming very soon. Like the video guys, it helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. It's completely free, so just be nice and like the video so other people can see it. And comment down below if you have any questions or you're struggling with anything or you have some suggestions, whatever. Just comment down below if you want to say something. I'm gonna wrap this up and I'll see you all on the next one.